The story begins in Shinjuku City, where a girl named Izumo has just finished reading her favorite book. She wishes her life could have been more romantic like in her story, but she prepares to end her own life. However, a man named Andy suddenly warns her that she's standing in a dangerous spot. She tells him to stay away, claiming he'll get an incurable disease if he touches her, but he approaches her anyway, allowing himself to get stabbed. This causes her to panic, as he grabs onto her, telling her that he has never heard of a deadly disease transmitted by touch. Izumo reveals that she has the ability to give bad luck to anyone she touches, as Andy suddenly falls, and he gets run over by a train. She blames herself for the incident, thinking she just got him killed, but his head suddenly flies to her, and his body quickly regenerates, as she watches on in disbelief. Andy thinks that he's lucky to meet her, but she gives him a painful punch, and she starts running away, but he grabs onto her, revealing that he is undead. He is about to inquire about her ability, but he notices that the police are on their way, so he flies away, using his blood to fly around the city, and he takes her to the top of a building. Izumo tries to escape, but Andy stops her, saying she can't leave until she answers his questions. She warns him that he will trigger her ability, but he knows that this won't happen, because he's only touching her clothes. She implores him to let her go, but she notices that it's a long way down. He wants her to answer his questions, but she refuses, saying she'd rather die, so he threatens to throw her off the building, scaring her into submission. Izumo reveals that it started 10 years ago, when her parents were about to leave for a business trip. They gave her a hug before they entered the plane, but before they could take off, the plane suddenly exploded, killing everyone inside. After the incident, she discovered her ability, blaming herself for the death of her parents, and she is covering her body with clothing to keep others safe. But Andy suddenly hugs her, saying he wants to test her ability. A crate falls from a plane, and it crushes his body, as Izumo tries to run away, but she loses her footing, causing her to fall off the building. This causes her to panic, revealing that she isn't ready to die, so she starts crying, but Andy catches up to her, and saves her from certain death. He tells her that he won't let her die, because she might be able to give him a real death, thinking she is hiding something about her ability, which could be the key to finally ending his life. They fly back to his hideout, where Andy tells Izumo to remove her clothes, wanting to learn more about her ability, but she starts running away, because she doesn't want him to see her naked. She gets caught on a nail, and loses her hat, revealing her ridiculously long hair. She reveals that no one has ever cut her hair, because she knows that the hairstylist would end up dead. But Andy holds onto her, and he starts cutting her hair, revealing that he used to work as a stylist. He knows that her ability won't be triggered until he lets go of her, but he tells her not to worry, reminding her that he's undead. He shows her the end result, and she's actually happy to see this. Andy is excited to see what's going to happen, knowing he has held onto her for 15 minutes. His head is suddenly sliced off, as a group of men appear, thanking Izumo for helping them capture Andy. They put his head in a capsule, and they put handcuffs on her, telling her that their job is to control negators like her, but she has no idea what they're talking about. Their leader reveals that they know about her ability, so they are using clothes to protect themselves. He reveals that they are going to exploit her ability, saying Andy was planning to do the same, but she rejects the idea, telling him that Andy is nothing like them. He warns her to watch her tongue, threatening to kill her if she doesn't cooperate, and she starts to blame herself for Andy's fate, but she thanks him for cutting her hair. At that moment, one of the men is struck by lightning, so they start to wonder if this is because of Izumo's ability, but they conclude that it isn't, because she never touched the man. However, Izumo tells them that they're wrong, and Andy suddenly breaks free. The men prepare to cut him down, as their leader tells them that Andy is a weak fighter, but Andy claims that he used to be good at fighting. He reveals that his brain can't handle storing over 100 years worth of his memories, so he put a cork on his brain to block it out. He unlocks his memories, allowing him to regain his fighting skills, which he uses to defeat the enemies. Andy concludes that the appearance of the enemies was purely by chance, and the lightning bolt is the result of Izumo's ability. He returns the cork, and the leader threatens to kill Izumo if Andy doesn't hand over his head. So he slices off his head, and throws it to the leader. But Izumo breaks free, and she kisses Andy, revealing that they are about to experience the ultimate bad luck. The leader isn't bothered, but Andy is excited, telling her to run away, as he keeps the leader busy. Izumo gets out of the building as a meteor falls, causing a massive explosion that blows her away. Izumo thinks that Andy is dead, but he emerges from the rubble, and she is overjoyed to see that he survived. But after some time, Andy tells her to mate with him, thinking it will trigger an even greater bad luck. Izumo doesn't want to do it, telling him about the time she kissed her grandfather, who she didn't really like, and he just ended up with a sprained ankle. So she concludes that the more she likes the person, the greater the effect becomes. She explains that if Andy forces himself on her, she's going to hate him, and she won't be able to give him the death that he desires. So he changes his plan, telling her that he won't let her die until she falls in love with him. They visit an armory, where Andy fits Izumo with heavy armor, telling her that it should protect her from their enemies. He reveals that an organization is after them, and he's expecting a second group to show up. He explains that he and Izumo are called negators because they negate the rules of the world, saying the enemy organization also has negators. The enemy already knows about their abilities, so he thinks that they don't stand a chance, suggesting that they run away. They try to get away on a bike, but Andy reveals that he has no destination in mind. Izumo thinks they're going to get caught, but he assures her that he won't let her die until she falls in love with him, so that she can give him the biggest stroke of bad luck. She thinks that she'll never fall in love with him, saying she doesn't even like him. At that moment, a crack appears in the sky, and Andy recognizes it as a warp gate. The sky shatters, as the enemy, Void, charges at them, blowing Izumo away. She sees that Andy has been crushed, so she runs to him, but she realizes that she's running backwards, and she bumps into a man named Shen, as she notes that she can't move her legs. Shen tells Void that he caught her, but Void tells him to kill her, revealing that their mission is to eliminate Izumo and capture Andy. However, Shen doesn't want to do it, and he starts asking her personal questions. Andy swiftly recovers, and he is about to attack Void, but he suddenly stops moving. Void punches him away, but Andy realizes he can move again. He thinks Void must have the ability to stop his movements, but Izumo speculates that it was Shen who stopped him. But he disagrees, saying Void paralyzed his body, while Shen is manipulating her will. Void hits him, and he immediately counters, as he realizes that he can move immediately after he gets hit. They proceed to exchange blows, as Izumo wonders if the organization will chase them forever. Shen reveals that they've become a high-priority target because of the meteor that fell on the building, so there will be plenty of negators going after them. Izumo learns that Shen and Void are also negators, so she wonders why they aren't being hunted. Shen explains that there is a group called the Union, and there are 10 negators within its ranks, who are exempted from pursuit, under the condition that they carry out missions. Izumo thinks about joining the Union, but Void tells her that all the seats are taken, and he is about to attack her, but Andy saves her, saying it will be a great idea to join the Union. He suggests eliminating 2 negators, so that they can take the spots, assuring her that he will keep her safe. She touches him, and she quickly runs away, telling him that he is about to have massive bad luck, but it's not because she loves him, saying she's only grateful for everything that he has done for her. A truck crashes into Andy, and it explodes, but Shen and Void are able to escape unscathed. Andy flies away, as he thinks about the abilities that the enemies have. He remembers how Void stopped him from moving whenever he was ready to attack, so Andy concludes that Void's ability is to make his attacks unavoidable. But Shen's ability is still a mystery, so Andy needs to be careful until he figures it out. However, he realizes that there are bombs in the area, and they explode, causing the building to collapse. Izumo wonders if this is because of her ability, or if it happened purely by chance. Void survives the explosion because of his suit, and he sees Andy's arms sticking out of the rubble, so he grabs onto it, thinking he has finally caught the target. But Andy suddenly appears, revealing that his body parts disappear 30 seconds after they have been cut off. He bites his finger and points it at Void, who tries to freeze him, but Andy launches his finger, which hits Void's head, and defeats him in an instant. Andy explains that Void can only immobilize his muscles, but he can launch his body parts using his regenerative powers, so he didn't need to move a muscle to land the finishing blow. Shen realizes that Void has been defeated, and Andy tries to attack him, but he easily parries the attacks. Andy tries to guess what kind of ability he has, thinking it has something to do with parrying. Izumo gives him the sword, and he prepares to cut him down, but he suddenly stops moving, as Shen tells him that he hesitated for a moment. Shin wonders if Andy has a soft spot for Izumo, who tries to touch him, but she completely misses. He refuses to reveal his ability, but he tells them that they won't be able to run away or touch him, because his ability affects their minds. He wonders who will be joining the union to replace Void, so Andy tells him to give the spot to Izumo, telling her not to worry, because he will be able to survive, and make her fall in love with him before she dies. Shin is about to take her away, but she tells him to look away, because she's about to make love to Andy. She thinks that he deserves a reward, because he fought for her with everything he had, telling him that this is his chance to die. But Shin suddenly starts laughing, admitting that he has taken a liking to them, so he wants them to take out another union member, offering to help them join when there are 2 spots. He reveals that a union member will be going to a lake in Russia, advising them to look for a man with an emblem and a red necktie. He hopes that they will succeed, saying there will be people hunting them along the way, and he decides to leave them alone. Izumo is surprised that they have been spared, and Andy helps her get dressed, telling her that he doesn't want her when she's desperate. He tells her about his plan, revealing that he has a boat which they can use to reach Russia, where they will then take a plane to a place called Irkutsk, so they can meet his allies, who will help them defeat the Negator, and secure another vacant spot in the Union, so that they can finally live in peace. 50 years earlier, we see Andy trapped in an isolation facility, as a young girl watches him. Back in the present, we see the girl on a satellite, as she tracks Andy's boat. We see Andy enjoying the ride, but Izumo hides, worried they are going to be hunted. Andy drags her out, telling her to enjoy it, but they suddenly come under attack. Izumo thinks they're in trouble, but Andy tells her they can always use her ability to get away. Izumo thinks her ability isn't that convenient, but Andy says it's all about how she uses it, showing off how he can use his ability for more than just staying alive. Izumo is impressed, and wonders if they can join the Union now, but Andy tells her they need to go after the person with the emblem, thinking it must represent the 10 members. He notes that he's aware of 3 other people that would have an emblem. The first is the maker of his indestructible sword that he stole. The second is a scientist who experimented on him 50 years ago, and the third is a girl named Jean, who can create invisible barriers, and she was the one who captured him all those years ago. We learn that the girl has a thing for Andy, calling him the only man she has ever loved. She launches a blast from her satellite, and it instantly destroys their ship. Andy wonders what they were attacked by, and he sees Izumo unconscious. He finds she is trapped under the wreckage, but he cuts his arm off, and uses his regeneration to push the wreckage away. As he swims up, he notices something that gives him an idea. They make it back to the surface, and Izumo regains consciousness. Andy tells her to put her hands up, as the enemy tells them to surrender. Izumo is surprised they are surrendering, but Andy says he's just buying time to figure out if they can control her ability. Izumo thinks it's impossible, but Andy has a theory. He notes that her previous strokes of bad luck always draw on something of proportional value. In the cases of the haircut and their kiss, they meant a lot to her, and when there was nothing nearby of proportional value, her ability pulled lightning and a meteor. He notes that there's something of proportional value underwater that they can use, and Izumo notices that her bra is out of place. Andy says he had to move it to give her CPR, and Izumo realizes he saw her naked. He also says that she wasn't waking up, so he even gave her mouth to mouth. Izumo can't believe this, and there is suddenly a huge explosion that shoots them up, allowing them to get onto the jet. Andy cuts through the pilot in an instant, and they end up stealing the plane. Andy tells Izumo they can control her ability by finding a source of misfortune, and then by applying a suitable amount of contact, they will be able to trigger it, telling her that her ability is now their trump card. As they continue to fly, the plane suddenly prepares to self-destruct. Andy quickly ejects, and the plane explodes. Izumo thinks they are going to fall, but Andy softens the landing with his body. They manage to arrive in Irkutsk, and Izumo is amazed to see such a beautiful lake. Andy tells her to check it out, while he goes to find his friends, saying the Union won't make a move on her while there are so many tourists around. Izumo thinks about how much has changed in just 4 days after meeting Andy. She gets approached by some other people, but she doesn't understand them, so she just runs away. She stops as she notices a girl painting, and it turns out to be Jean. Jean is excited to meet another Japanese person, and she even gets Izumo to paint with her. Jean asks Izumo if she likes things that change or things that stay the same. Izumo isn't sure, and Jean reveals she prefers things that stay the same, like art, which allows her to capture the world as a never-changing drawing. Izumo ends up finishing her painting, and Jean is surprised to see stars, because there should be nothing in space besides the sun and the moon, but Izumo thought the moon looked lonely, so she gave it some friends. She thinks about Jean's question from earlier, revealing that she used to feel like she could never change, but after meeting Andy, and going through so much with him, she appreciates things that can change. But Jean calls her naive, putting on her tie, as she suddenly starts floating up into the sky. Andy returns, and he instantly tries to attack Jean, but he is just pushed away. Izumo is shocked realizing who she really is, and Jean prepares to play with them, knowing that they are after her. Jean suddenly rushes to Andy, revealing that she missed him, and he tries to slice her, but a barrier protects her. Izumo wonders if she is the one who captured Andy 50 years ago, because she looks like a teenager. Andy reveals that she was 16 when she caught him, so he knows that she is now 66 years old, thinking the organization has an anti-aging technology. But she shuts him up, claiming she is stuck at 16 years old. He jumps back, realizing that something invisible was covering his mouth, so he needs to find a way to deal with her ability. She reveals that she is in love with Andy, saying she was ordered to capture him 50 years ago, but after she caught him, she realized that all of their seats were filled, so he had to stay in a cell. In a flashback, we see Andy in his cell, as Jean apologizes to him, telling him that she was only following orders. But he tells her that it's okay, because he can't die anyways, thinking the organization's experiments will help him understand his abilities better, and he wants to have a rematch, saying he won't lose again. Back in the present, Jean reveals that Andy's cool demeanor made her fall in love with him, but he escaped after he was held captive for 10 years, and he was nowhere to be found. However, after he met Izumo, Jean was finally able to find him. He throws bombs at her, causing a large explosion, but she emerges unscathed, revealing that she is angry at Shen, because he was the first member to reach Andy. She is happy that Void is dead, saying they now have a vacant spot in the Union, telling him he should take it. He throws a flashbang, and while she is blinded, he charges at her, trying to get past her barrier, but she counters, forcing him to retreat, as he reveals that he is still trying to figure out her ability. Izumo wonders where his friends are, but he tells her that they're already dead, so they will have to deal with Jean on their own. He recalls how she controlled the water in the lake, and created an invisible barrier, thinking her ability has something to do with hardening, but he wonders why his sword can't slice through her barrier. She gathers wind energy, and she throws her weapon at Andy, slicing his body in half. She knows that he could have dodged it, but he wanted to protect Izumo, thinking she is a burden to him. Jean reveals that she has restrained the lower half of his body, telling him to give up on Izumo, but he refuses to let her die. So Jean prepares to take his head, but he reveals that he has already figured out her ability. He bites a grenade, and slices off his head, launching it to the sky. He explodes in midair, causing his blood to rain on Jean, and revealing the hands surrounding her, which were formed by fixing the air in place. He sees this as proof that his theory is correct, revealing that her ability is to prevent things from changing. Andy knows that he can't defeat her on his own, so he tells Izumo to help him out. She touches him with her chest, so Jean becomes upset, thinking she has seduced him with her body. Jean says that Izumo's beauty will fade after 20 years, but her ability prevents her appearance from changing, allowing her to keep her youthful appearance. However, Andy thinks that this is unusual, because she is an external targeter, explaining that there are two types of negators. The self-targeters can only use their abilities on themselves, while the external targeters can only use their abilities on others. Jean claims that she is a self-targeter, saying her appearance should serve as evidence, but Andy notices that she is aging, and she is just covering her face with makeup to give her a youthful appearance. He concludes that she is an external targeter, thinking her ability doesn't work on humans. This makes her upset, and she tries to attack him, but he starts flying away, as Izumo wonders why Jean is just walking to them, thinking running would be more efficient. Andy realizes that Jean has a weakness, saying they just need to find a good source of misfortune to take her out. At that moment, something hits them, causing them to crash, as Andy realizes that there is something above them. They are attacked by laser beams, as Jean reveals that they're investigating a mysterious animal in the lake, so she's been running a scan on it, using her ability to help find the creature. But she tells them that she's had enough, saying she will kill Izumo instead of the creature, as a UFO appears above them. She charges at him, trying to kill Izumo, but Andy dashes away, as he explains that he can't let Izumo die until she gives him the death that he desires. He notices blood in the water, so he realizes that there's a hole in the barrier under Jean's feet which allows her to walk. He dashes to her, as he plans to trigger bad luck at the right moment, knowing the hole should be big enough to squeeze his head in. He covers her with blood, obscuring her vision, so she thinks about releasing her barrier. But a sword slides into it, exposing its weak spot, as Izumo throws his head inside, triggering his bad luck, and allowing him to reach Jean. He explains that since he is inside the barrier, the bad luck will be able to reach him, and the UFO fires a beam of light, destroying everything in its path. Izumo makes her way to Andy, and he is about to kill Jean. But he ultimately decides against it, realizing that she is about to die. Jean reveals that she did terrible things for the Union, hoping that things would change, but nothing happened in the end. She tells Izumo that her painting was beautiful, saying she never thought about making changes, but she now realizes that change isn't a bad thing. The anti-aging is about to wear off, so she tells them to leave, because she doesn't want them to see her face. But Andy hugs her, and he tells her that she is still beautiful, allowing her to enjoy her final moments. Izumo and Andy have a drink, and Izumo cries over her death. Andy thinks about how she always had doubts about killing to stay alive herself, and he thanks Izumo for helping him save her. But Izumo asks to try and change the Union, not wanting anyone else to suffer like she did. Andy agrees to help her, but a warp gate suddenly opens, and the two get picked up. They start to fall, and they realize they are at the Union. Andy immediately attacks with his fingers, calling it a greeting, but his attack is easily stopped. They land in their seats, and Andy tells them all to die, but Shen is happy to see them. Andy gets punched by a member named Tatiana, as she is mad that he killed Jean, but another member, Billy, reminds her that fighting among Union members is forbidden. It seems like she still wants to fight, but the first seat, Jules, tells them to stop, and Andy suddenly puts his sword to Izumo. Tatiana is also forced to attack Billy, and Jules asks them if they still want to continue, so they both agree to behave. They all continue with their meeting, and Jules calls upon a book named Apocalypse. The book opens, and reveals that they have 6 quests. The quests include capturing other negators, and taking out certain creatures known as UMAs, but they also come with rewards, like adding an extra seat to the Union. However, they only have until the end of the month to complete all the quests, or else they will face a punishment. Jules tells another member named Nico to run an analysis, and he determines that they are only able to complete 3 of the quests, so they will need to accept the punishment. Izumo is confused about what's going on, so the boy next to her, Top, explains that Apocalypse is the first artifact that was found on Earth, and it forces them to complete a bunch of unreasonable quests. Izumo wonders why they need to listen to it, remembering how Jean was never able to change anything no matter how hard she tried. Jules explains that rules have been added to Earth 98 times, things like language, race, death, and sickness. If they don't intervene, new penalties will be added once every 3 months, so that's why they must do everything to strengthen their forces, wanting to eventually kill the creator of the Earth who is forcing these rules upon them. Izumo isn't happy about the situation, so Jules tells her she can make change if she becomes number 1, saying that the leader of the Union is determined by who has achieved the most results. Izumo wonders how long that would take, but Andy suddenly grabs Apocalypse, wanting to know which quest is the hardest. It bites off his hands, but tells him it's the one that involves an individual named Spoil. Andy immediately decides to accept it, saying he'll do it with Izumo, but also Shen. The request is accepted, and Shen can't believe he is getting dragged along. On the 21st of the month, we see Izumo getting dressed by Shen's subordinate Mui. She hopes that Izumo can help take care of Shen, revealing that she can't take part in the quest because she doesn't have an emblem. They prepare to head off, but Andy suddenly bumps into her, causing a magma explosion. His clothes are destroyed, but he wants to just get on with their quest. Shen tells him that he needs the outfit, explaining that it's special. The suit is surprisingly durable, and the tie grants access to all public services, as well as the ability to translate any language, and the emblem is necessary to participate in the quest. But Andy still doesn't care, saying they are splitting up, because he wants to have a date with Izumo. There is suddenly an alert, and we see that one of the UMAs in their containment has escaped. The group realizes that it's nearby, and Mui finds that the creature is named Clothes, which has the ability to latch onto a person and transform into the clothes that they most desire. But she notes that it takes control of the person's body. Andy gets punched, but he grabs the man and knocks him out. However, Mui notes that if the host loses the capacity to move, then Clothes will find a new body. Mui gets taken over, but Andy notes that her appearance didn't change, but we see she has gained an emblem. She starts attacking them, and Andy tells Shen to stop her with his power, but he says that it doesn't work on Clothes. Izumo grabs onto her, triggering her ability, and Mui is knocked out by a brick. The Clothes move again, targeting Izumo, but Andy saves her just in time, and it latches onto him instead. Izumo finds it strange that it doesn't seem to be turning into Clothes, and the creature curses at Andy, because he's too demanding, wanting clothes that can instantly regenerate and fly to him at will. Andy calls it lame, so the creature tries to consume him, but he is suddenly hit by a laser since he touched Izumo, and Nico apologizes for an artifact malfunction. But we see Andy has tamed the creature, and Izumo names it Clothy. Andy gains points for the capture, and he moves up to the 9th rank. Meanwhile, Nico receives a report about the appearance of a UMA in New York. It's identified as a rotting corpse, so they think it must be spoil, but Andy just gets excited about grabbing a burger in America. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.